Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some friggin' books. I don't have very many to talk about, but I realized that recently I've just been rambling like a motherfuck in my fucking recent wrap-ups, so I wanted to talk about less books today. So I have 3 books to talk about today and one quick mention of a DNF. I'll just mention the DNF first. This is a DNF that I might come back to. This is a book that has been on my kind of overall TBR for a long time, and then it got put on my seasonal TBR this past one, and that is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. This thing is, first of all, enormous, and I got like 8 to 10% of the way in, and I was just bored out of my mind and also very confused. And I think this is a case of reading too many things at the same time. I was reading like 5 books at once. Why? And 3 of them were over like 600 some pages. So yeah, it just was not working out. And it's one of those things where I was like, if I am gonna give this book a chance, like now is not the time. So the first new book that I have actually completed reading is another chunker, Malice by Gwynne. This thing is huge. It's a 4-book series, adult epic fantasy, and how do I do a general premise? This is multiple points of view, ranging in a bunch of different ages too. We have one that's like a main character who is a kid, a teenager. Most of the other ones though are adults. We do also hear from the kid I mentioned, his sister as well, who's also a kid. So there's a couple of like younger points of view. Most of them are older though. And in this world, basically there were 2 gods. There was like the benevolent good god and then like the bad god. And they had a war that left the earth like in shambles. The gods have left them now, and there are giants and different things, different creatures, kind of mythical creatures. And basically there's a prophecy about a return of the gods in the form of another god war. And there's this big epic prophecy about like this beacon of light and hope that will come to the aid of mankind, and then like the beacon of darkness and evil that will also show up. And it's a very large world with a bunch of different kingdoms, but one overall king, and they have their own shit going on in their own little worlds. But then the big king is like, hey guys, this prophecy, we got to pay attention to this. And some people do, some people don't, some people think it's bullshit, but then people start seeing things happening that are leading to questions, and like maybe this shit is real. So yeah, all these characters have a part to play in this larger story. In this book, nothing gets resolved as far as like the prophecy. Okay, can we not though right now? Stop, no. Nothing gets resolved as far as the prophecy. That's, I think, like the overall series plot. I really enjoyed this. The plot did get a little bit convoluted for me in a couple of places in a minor way. Mostly just, I think, confusion on my part. There are, like I said, a lot of characters and a lot of kingdoms, and a few times I got a little bit confused, like, wait, they're what kingdom? Like, I found myself going back to the map quite a bit to look and be like, okay, that's where they are. Like, I didn't have a good grasp on like where they were in relation to each other in the world. And for a minute, it took me a minute to get a grasp on like who is from what kingdom. So I have realized another trope that really just irks me. And it's not like I think people shouldn't use it. It's something from real life. It just, this type of person annoys me. So this type of character and trope and plot in a book just irritates the fuck out of me personally. And that is the relentless bully. When it's kids, I'm more understanding. I get it. Kids are more likely to just be like, man, I'm a bully and I have unresolved issues. I'm just gonna take them out on you because you're an easy target. And we definitely have that. There's this like training soldier who is just being a relentless as fuck bully to one of our main characters, Corbin. And it drove me nuts, but I was more like, okay, whatever. But then we also have it with some of the adult characters. where this one guy is just a straight up dick constantly to this other guy because they're technically both, they could both potentially be heirs to this throne, right? They're both kin to the king who doesn't have sons of his own. And the king, you know, treats them both with respect and likes them. One of them is much more ambitious though. The one guy who's like really nice, he's kind of like, yeah, if I was the heir, like if the king picked me, like I would do it, but I don't really care. The other guy cares a lot. And so he sees this other dude as his competition and is just like, I fucking hate you. You're my competition, so I want you to die. Like, I don't know. It just drove me nuts because like logically, why? Dude isn't fighting with you. Dude's just trying to be nice to you. He's trying to work with you and be respectful toward you and understanding. And you're just like, no, I fucking hate you, you stupid idiot. And like, I just couldn't deal with it. I hate that so much. But it's not like, I don't know, the biggest, there's so much going on that like, this wasn't like a big, huge part of the book necessarily. But yeah, I just wanted to be like, grow the fuck up, get over it. You dumb, dummy idiot. There's some twists and turns, some things that you can see coming for sure. But I liked going on the journey, even though like I saw it coming, it was still like, it's one of those situations where it was cool seeing the foreshadowing. And like, you don't know for sure, but you're like, I think that this is gonna happen. Like, I'm pretty sure. And even times where I was right, it wasn't like, oh God, I called it. It was like fun putting these puzzle pieces together, that kind of a thing. You know what I mean? I got very invested in these characters. I definitely have some favorites. I won't go into all of that because I don't want to give spoilers and stuff. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. By the time this video goes up, the live stream for the live show should be up on Jessie May's channel where we talked about this. So I'll just link to that if you care for like more in-depth thoughts, my thoughts, Jessie's thoughts. We both really liked it. It was the July pick for her Shelf Space book club. So yeah, it was a good time. On my 1 to 10, I gave this a 7.42, which translates to 4 pushinicorns. Super solid, super excited to continue with the series. I've heard from everybody who has read the entire series that it only gets better and better. And the next one I read, I don't actually have. I took it back to the library already. It was a graphic novel that was my nonfiction selection for my seasonal TBR, and that is Rosalie Lightning by Tom Hart. I also, random sidebar, I think I've decided that moving forward, I'm not going to give nonfiction a rating necessarily. I'm just going to talk about like what I liked and didn't like and kind of just say if I recommend it or not, because I don't know, so much of nonfiction, like I was trying to give ratings in the past with just like the writing style. If I thought like, you know, the information was presented logically, if I appreciated the like authorial voice, but that it gets a little difficult. And then also like good time, like if I enjoyed the content as well. But it just gets so difficult because so much of it is like, it's like academic, you know, it's like academic texts. And like how much of the authorial voice can you really enjoy? Like, you know what I mean? And sometimes maybe that stuff isn't great and it's kind of dry, but like the information is really great. So yeah, moving forward with nonfiction stuff, I'm just gonna say what I liked or didn't like, and then, or what worked or didn't work for me, and then if I would recommend it or not. And especially with this one, even prior to deciding this, I didn't want to give this a rating because it's basically a memoir about a man losing his child dying. And it just feels really weird to give that a rating. And that's not a spoiler, that is in the synopsis. It tells you that like that's what the book is about. And it like happens really early on. Like right when the book starts, it's the aftermath. When the book starts, it's him and his wife like dealing with this, right? And then they mention pretty early on like what happened and how it happened, not in any extreme detail, but definite content warnings, trigger warnings for death of a child and like the grief of losing a child. That is entirely what this book is. I personally haven't dealt with an immediate death like that. I've lost various grandparents. Some I was close to, some I wasn't. And kind of people, young people in like my circles of friends, but never anyone like super, super, super close to me at this point in my life. I'm very fortunate. So I definitely cannot relate to the experience here, this level of grief and loss. And it was kind of just the meandering through loss, the ups and the downs. And for me, it was basically this person, this guy, kind of coming to terms with moving on and getting to that point where like feeling okay with moving on, basically. And you also know right from the beginning that the couple went on to have another child, so there is a happy ending, as happy as it could be, of course. And that is not always the case. It was very simplistic. The writing and the artwork is it's not overdone. Like I said, the death of the child is, you know what happens. It's not like over dramatized or overdone. It's just this is what happened and now we're dealing with it. So definitely proceed with caution if you are very sensitive to these things. But I also feel like, and not even necessarily just death of a child, but if you have dealt with death of someone that you're very close to, someone that you care about a lot, I think I could see this book like helping some people, because you're seeing, I feel like people would connect with it. I feel like people would relate to it a lot. So I would recommend it, but with that like warning of be careful, because if you're very sensitive to this, it's probably going to tear you up. And then I continued after a bit of a break. I continued with the Sookie reread. This is book 9, Dead and Gone. There are 4 books left in the series, I think. Yes. And then there are 2 books that I own. One is like a collection of the short stories, and then one is like the aftermath, or like afterwards. Like, this is Sookie's life now. I have not read either of those, so I will be reading those as well. But for the core series, there are 4 books left, and this one was less annoying. It's the same thing. All these books are the same formula. Sookie is our main character, and there's like a murder mystery and supernatural shit happening. But yeah, in this one, number 1, I liked the plot a bit better. There wasn't a bunch of like Alcide and the werewolf pack bullshit that I never fucking care about. Sam is still like annoying to me, and I don't, whatever. But like, he wasn't as big of a thing in this either. Bill is in this a bit more, which is kind of dumb because I don't like Bill. But Eric was back, and oh my god, I was so excited. I remembered it being like a lot more intense though the first time I read it. But yeah, it wasn't super intense, but he is back in Sookie's life in a romantical way, and I was living my best life. So yeah, this book I did like better than the previous like 3, but Sookie still with her fucking moral gymnastics, like, oh god, and she was way less judgmental toward other women and way less bitchy, but like, she's still mad at Jason, and it makes no goddamn sense. It makes no goddamn sense why she's so fucking mad at him. Get over it, bitch. Oh my god, it drives me crazy. Also, in this book, there were a couple times, like 2 or 3 times, where we have some truly not great depictions of black women. Like the stereotype of the aggressive, hardened, super serious, like whatever black woman just runs rampant. There's the police officer who's a black woman, and then there's a lawyer. And the lawyer, let me see if I can find it. Gee. Lily, run away. Hey, go. It sounds a lot more intense than it is, I promise. And Lily, because I got her 10 years ago and I didn't know any better at the time, but she's fully declawed. So she's like bopping Gigi, but like she can't actually hurt her. And I'm suspicious that that's why Gigi continues to play with her, because she thinks Lily is playing and not actually pissed. Yeah, right here. Randomly, and this is the thing too with these books, is that like you get names and like background of everybody, even when they don't fucking matter and you literally never see them again. I don't know if Charlaine Harris is just like, this is world building. But yeah, which it's our world. So like, anyway, talking about someone getting arrested and said, oh, she couldn't afford this guy, so she hired Melba Jennings. Good move, I said thoughtfully. Melba Jennings was only a couple of years older than me. She was the only African-American woman in Bon Ton who'd been to law school. She's probably one of the only African-American women in Bon Ton at all. Anyway, she had a hard-as-nails facade and was confrontational in the extreme. Other lawyers had been known to take incredible detours to dodge Melba if they saw her coming. Makes her look like less of a bigot, talking about the person that hired her. I don't think it's going to fool anyone, but Melba's like a pit bull. Like, okay. I'm laughing because it's just so incredulous. Like, it's just so, like, what the fuck? And then later on, talking about the police officer, Kenya. She's in the books throughout. But yeah, Kenya's sitting there, and Sookie brings her bourbon and Coke. And it says, and to someone else too, and says, and they smiled back. It was so rare to see Kenya crack a grin that I almost laughed. She looked about 5 years younger when she smiled. So yeah, just these stereotypes of black women being like super hard and confrontational in the extreme and like serious all the time and like mad. I was just kind of like, all right. And there was another part where I was just like, what? Where her verbiage, her terminology, I just didn't love. And we have a murder of a pregnant woman. Okay, so whatever, she has died. And for some reason, we had to have this conversation speculating about when the fetus was lost. It didn't need to be here. Like, the woman was murdered while she was pregnant. The fetus is lost. Like, those are the facts. Like, why do we care? At any rate, Sookie randomly, and no one even asked her either. They were just talking about this woman. She had had a couple of miscarriages, and so they were saying, like, oh, her family, like, they're pretty bummed about the babies she lost and stuff, and obviously they're like devastated that she's gone now. And Sookie's sitting here thinking about this woman and her life and whatever, and then she just randomly goes, could be this baby was lost before the murder, or she aborted during the murder. Maybe whoever did this didn't know. Why did we need to say she aborted the baby during the murder? I know that technically any fetus being lost, it can, like, you can use that terminology with that, but most people don't. Most people don't say that a baby or a fetus has been aborted unless, like, the conscious action was taken to go have an abortion. That's really the only time I've ever heard people use it. And I mean, I'm not real deep into, like, reproductive rights and all of that, but, like, I've just commonly, it's just not common to say, oh, this baby was aborted, when what you mean is the mother was murdered while she was pregnant. Like, what? I don't know. It just felt weird. And this is a character who has been vilified over and over again for being a slut and for being a whore and this and that and the other thing. Like, she's just the worst kind of woman. Like, that's the brush she is painted with. So then for Sookie to say this, I was just like, all right, Miss Harris, I see you. Like, it just felt so fucking unnecessary. So this one was, for me, a more enjoyable reading experience, a slightly more enjoyable reading experience than the previous few books, but it still wasn't great. Like, I don't like Sookie still. I was just happy that there was more Eric and that the plot of this one made a little more sense and, like, was a little more fun to read. So on my 1 to 10, I gave this a 5.5, which is 3 Pushinicorns. And there we have it. Those are the books. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.